This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, yeah. So today we'll be looking at Tinkercad.com, a free 3D printing design website. 3D printing itself is just it's quite broad and what it is, but basically it's the construction and design of a three-dimensional object from a digital file. So it's made and designed digitally, and then a machine prints it out once it's done. The machine that we have is this exact one on the right-hand side. It just uses plastic. So basically what it does is it feeds in this plastic filament to the nozzle, and then it slowly prints it out level by level, bottom to top. And then you have a solid object as you designed it at the end. Oh, hey, just 1 second. For the design class? Oh yeah, come on in. Yeah. Yeah, someone's just coming in the classroom. Yeah. So if you want, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good. So if you want, it might be, if you want to just listen and watch, or if you want, you can make an account and log on and do it. But you can just watch tonight at handout at the end. I can email out. Yeah. I have a couple people on Zoom, you in the classroom. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes, we have the Lulzbot has 6 model. And you can see what it looks like as it's going. The whole kind of field is called CAD design, or computer assisted or aided design. So again, it's digitally designed and then printed out in 3D with some type of physical medium. Some fields that use CAD design, gaming, they use CAD design to make 3D graphics in games, and they obviously don't print it out at all usually, but they use the same type of CAD design. Special effects in movies and TV shows, designing houses and buildings, they use CAD design, manufacturing, things like that. Publishing and advertising, again, any type of thing that is 3D is going to use CAD design, so graphics on ads and things like that. And then the science as well, like geology sciences, in the health field, you have like scanning and imaging that uses CAD designs to scan the body and kind of see different masses and things in the body. So all of these have applications in CAD. On this slide, I just have some examples of what we usually print out at the library, usually just small things like toys and little gadgets and gizmos and things like that. Obviously, all these examples, they'll use special types of CAD apps and websites and things to have applications in those fields, but we just use it to do simple things. Some things to keep in mind when we design something. We can design anything, but just given how things come out on the print bed, we have to keep those things in mind. One thing is that it prints bottom to top. So we can have something printed that's like floating in the middle of nothing. We see like this is a little dragon that someone designed in 3D. But obviously, if the machine is going to print that out, it can't pump up, 6 inches and then begin printing the head. So built into the 3D printing machine itself is the ability to print these like rip away scaffolding things, all these like green columns. That's done automatically, and it's just used to hold up stuff that's not touching the bottom of the bed. We also have to keep in mind, like the medium itself. We use this like plastic PLA filament, and depending on like the fineness of the design and like how small something it is and how thin something is, sometimes wonky things can happen. Like with this Pikachu, something happened. Maybe it was too thin. Maybe just the machine had a slight bug, and if we print it again, it'll come out just fine. But some things, like this can happen. When we actually something into the 3D machine to print out, we have all these settings that we can fine tune, how fast it prints out, how hot the filament is, and that depends on, again, the medium that we choose, how detailed it is, how slow, all of these types of things, how hollow it is. When we print something out, we don't just print it out in solid plastic. Again, this is an automatic thing that the machine can do. It can automatically hollow out an object so you don't waste 2 pounds of plastic printing out a Pikachu. It can automatically like honeycomb the inside of the object. So you use less plastic and it's less time consuming to make. And the only thing with that we have to keep in mind, if you want to print something functional, then you might need to up the what's called the infill of it, or how solid it is. Because if you just have like a little Pikachu toy that's going to sit on the shelf, that can be, mostly hollow. But if we want to print any type of like tool, something that's going to be physically used, we'll want to increase the infill so it won't snap as easily if it's just, something plastic like we can make. Something else, again, depending on the medium, is like the flexibility. We print in plastic, so some things come out, and if it's too thin, it's a little bit flexible. But with some designs, that's actually something that we depend upon. So like this 3D printed chip clip, someone printed this out in just one solid piece. But because it's thin, flexible plastic, they depend upon that. Get this little snap component on the left-hand side. They can just depend on the plastic to snap in. And that way they don't have to like design these fancy joints and hinges and all that type of stuff. And then the last thing to keep in mind is these things take a long time to print. It's like Disney Castle that might be printed at like 1.5 feet tall. That would take like multiple days to print. Little Pikachu maybe might take like 90 minutes even if he's only like a couple inches high. And if he's mostly hollow, it does take a while to do it because we want to get the fine detail and not rush it. Okay, so we'll head into the design app itself. I'm gonna come back to the slideshow now and then, but I do have a full slideshow with all the steps of what we'll be doing. I can email that out at the end if you need to look at it again. I'm going to jump to my second windows. And actually, ahead of going into the design app itself, I'm going to take us to the library website. We have a 3D printing page on the main navigation menu. So on this page, if you come down, we can find a spot that once you design something or once you just find something on the web that someone else designed, you can submit it to us. And you'll just need the 3D file itself, that digital file. Usually it's going to be like a .stl extension. So we just need the file, some contact info, the filament that you want it printed in. We have all these options. And then you can send that to us and we'll print it out. Usually it costs like, usually $1 if it's pretty small. It can go a little bit up from that depending on how big it is, but it's usually $1 a print if it's something small that we can do. That's how you can submit to us. We can, we'll see today how to design it, obviously. But if you just want to look online at like the kind of community of 3D stuff, this site is a pretty good one that lots of people go to. And it just has free designs that you can check out, download and send to us, and we'll print you out, a copy of these. And it's also a good idea, a good place to get ideas and maybe even, not steal from designs, but get ideas, maybe take a component of a design, something like that if you want to make something homemade. Lots of little toys. We can see that you can do a lot of cool stuff with 3D. All of these things that look like this is actually move, which articulated these guys. So just like the chip, which depends on flexibility, we can also print things that will move once we finish printing and just loosen it up a little bit. Inside spots that we can't quite see, it has some type of like ball and socket joint or something like that to just print in place And then as soon as it's done, we can pick it up and move it around. On the site, you can find all types of objects, all types of things, and yeah, just get ideas from that. Okay, let's go ahead and head into Tinkercad itself. I'm going to show you the home page, and then I'll hop back to my project. This is the home page. You can design different types of things. So if I head to my Designs tab, I have lots of 3D designs, but you can also do like code blocks and like electronics on this. But anytime you want to make something, you'll just go to Design, Create, and 3D Design, and then you'll get to the creation window. So this is a project, kind of the 3D studio. When you get into it, it'll be just a blank, plane. But this one, I have some of the stuff that that I'll be making today that we can just follow along with. So today's project is going to be, let me show it again. On this, it's going to be like a one-hand, like page holding thing, just like a simple thing, because we need to fit it into the class today. But we'll be designing one of these things to hold the book open with one hand, just as an example today. This is the finished products. I have a couple editions of them. So I have one with some text on it, one that kind of looks like a diamond ring, one with a little bit of different text on it. This way, also says read, and then just the blank one with kind of no decoration on it yet. Okay. Let's get going with this. If you have any questions as I go, especially as I begin to click buttons and do things with the keys that you can't quite see, you can let me know. In the handout that's coming is going to be this graphic, which is all the buttons and tips on how to like toggle things and resize things and all that stuff that you'll need if you want to actually begin doing stuff. Okay. So the main thing that we need to keep in mind when we design with this program specifically is that it's additive and subtractive design. So the main toolbox that we have is on the right-hand side, and it's just a whole gallery of like shapes and things like that. All of these we can customize and reshape and skew any way that we want. But we'll just be beginning with a whole bunch of shapes, and then it's additive, and that we can take a couple shapes onto the plane. We can move them about any way that we want. And then by additive, I mean we can take these shapes that we add to the plane and we can combine them to make a new shape. We kind of mentally imagine how we need to meld them in 3D. That's the additive component of it. And then we can also take any additional shape, we just keep adding shapes. And we can kind of make it like the hollow edition of it. So now it's like a negative space. And now I can move it in any way that I want, like this. And now when I combine them, it's going to be a subtractive kind of designing. So with this program, at least, that's all we need to know. We just need to find some shape that has some bit of a piece that we want, some angle, some bend, something like that, that we can combine with the shape. And then we can also use any shape that we find on this. We can switch to like the whole edition of it, and then we can attach that to the design we have. Use the combine button up to the top, and that will like cut that piece out of the design. It's the main gist of CAD design with Tinkercad. I'm going to delete this, and then we'll get going with the project itself, and now I'll try to explain exactly how to find all the buttons and how to do the things that I do on the plane. So again, we'll be making this guy, which you stick a thumb in and hold open a book with. Again, we need to make this shape by somehow finding a whole bunch of shapes that we can combine and cut out to make this. I'll give us a little hint by taking this finished product and uncombining all the shapes that I used to make it. And we can see it's made of, a couple hands, a couple wedges, things like that, that we combined to make something like this. When I come to this, my blank page, I'm going to begin with just one component of it. So I'm going to grab a can, and I just click and drag it with the left click onto the field, and then I can place it like this. A couple things that we need to know just from the beginning is how to view things, how to change the angle, and how to move things about on the plane itself. When I'm changing the angle like this to kind of pivot and see it from any angle that I need, what I'm doing is I'm holding down the right click, and that allows me to pane around. Left click is going to let me select an item and move that itself around. But when I want to change the angle, that's going to be the right click. Also, when I want to change kind of my viewpoint, if I hold down the shift key and then use the right click, I can kind of move the whole plane like this. So if I want to move up some items up this way, hold down the shift and right click up this way, and then I can right click again to kind of move around like this. Zooming in and out is pretty easy to spin the mouse wheel. And then again, shift and right click to move, and then just right click to kind of pan the angle. Lots of additional ways that we can kind of move around the field. We have these couple buttons on the left-hand side. If I click my home button, that's just going to zoom me out to see my whole, kind of studio at once. I can also click an item and then choose this little button below it, the fit view, and that's going to let me zoom in on the specific selected item that I have. I can also use that to see a couple items and kind of group them. So one last way of selecting an object or selecting multiple objects is to hold down the left click and kind of pull like this to make a multiple selection. And then any item that goes in that little dotted line box that pops up, can you kind of see that? Yeah. So when that goes like that, any item that's inside that box will be selected. Then I can move them all about as a with the left click, and I can also click the fit view item, get them both in view. If I come this way and I want to select all of these, I can just go like that, and then I can grab an object, and then I move all of them in sync and keep them, the same distance, same size, and things like that. Couple last basics. Up this way, we have this little cube thing, and you'll notice that as I move my own field of view around, this little cube itself is kind of spinning too. That's going to show me kind of how I'm looking at it. I can also just click on this cube itself, and you can see it kind of highlights the edges and the faces. You can use that as a kind of clean way to look at things. You can pivot and look around with that. Go back home. Again, we have a couple ways to do anything. So I have a plus and minus on the side, as well as the mouse wheel. And I can even just use the plus and minus on my keypad to zoom in and out. Okay. The basics of just looking and grabbing things. Now we'll begin to actually do some stuff now that we know how to kind of navigate about the field. And this is going to be my project, this item I have on the side. I'm going to kind of fit view just so it's filling up my field. And again, what we want to do is make this guy. So we need some way of hollowing out this object. We could try and find like a hollow pan type item someplace in this, depending on what we want to call it. But if we can't find a specific object, we need to make it homemade. What we can do is we can just use a second can to hollow it out. Supplied in the little field on the side, I can just use the cylinder item on this side to get a second solid object, and then anything that we add to the field from this menu, this gallery of stuff, I can make the hollow hole edition of it by toggling these two guys. And if we don't see those options, we can just click this little menu to pop it open. When we see this, by the way, a solid object is a solid object. if you change it, like this, that's basically just a visual thing. In the end, it's all going to be one solid object that you can print out in the filaments that you have available to you. Fact that this is now like yellow doesn't really affect anything with the final product. So you can use that if you want to kind of help you eyeball things and differentiate things, but it doesn't really affect anything in the end. I'm going to make that the hollow edition of it. And now we need to basically put this in the middle of this one, maybe reduce the size a little bit so we still have the outside walls intact when we combine these. And we can do that now and see a couple new tools to help us out. I could just select this item and try and move it exactly in the middle. And maybe, I kind of exactly got it, but it might be a little bit difficult to exactly line things up. So we have a built-in tool to help us align things exactly to edges and, center things and things like that. So if I select both of these, I have them both selected. And then I have these couple tools up in the top right, and one of them is going to be the align tool. So if I click on that, I get all these little dots popping up. And let me do this again to make it kind of obvious. So select those, click the align tool, and basically this is going to let you align these objects along any axis that you want exactly and quickly so you don't have to, just eyeball it and give it a best guess. If I aligned it along this axis, I want them to be like in the exact same place, basically. I'll use this one as well. And now we can see it's kind of like glitching out because it is the exact same thing stacked up. So now I have them both in the same exact place. A little bit difficult and unwieldy now that I don't know which item I'm selecting, but it looks like I'm selecting the hollow one. So what I'm going to do is now look at my resizing tools to make it a little bit less big than the solid cone can around it. So I can hollow it out. I'm going to pick on this. And now we see when we click on an object, we have all of these little handles that pop up. We have the sizing handles. We have some angle handles to kind of change it any way we want in 3D. Right now, we just want to reduce the size of it. I'm going to come down and choose any side that I want, and I can move it like this. And you can see as I do, it is reducing the size of it, but I am losing like the exact shape of it. You can see if I'm not cautious, depending on the way that I move it, it's going to kind of skew it a little bit. So one thing that we can do to keep it the same like X and Y is if I hold down my shift key, and I'll move this out so I can see it. If I hold down my shift key, it's going to move it and keep it the same exact shape while just resizing the whole thing at once. If I don't hold down the shift key, I can kind of move it any way that I want, which is maybe useful to you some of the time. But when you want to keep a shape as it is and just scale it up and down, we will want to hold the shift key so we can keep it like we want. I'm using Control Z, by the way, to undo. We have an undo button up this way too. Okay, so I'm back to the spot that I began. I'm going to click on my object. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm actually going to hold down the Alt key as well. And what the Alt key does is it keeps things in the middle as you scale them up and down. So let me change this so we can see the inside thing. We can see again, if I hold down Shift, keeps it the same like kind of X and Y, but if I hold down the Alt key, it's sizing it from the middle so it's not moving in relation to an object next to it. So if I do this one last time, now that we know all these tools and hold down Shift and Alt, I can scale it down a little bit difficult to see at the moment. We can just kind of see like the big box outline of the object at the moment. A couple things I can do. I can select the solid object itself. It's now the outside thing. I can click on this solid box and I can make it translucent so I can at least see what's inside of it. It's still like the solid type object. It's just, again, a visual tool to help us see stuff that might be hidden inside something else. That looks pretty good. It looks like it's going to be hollow if I hollow it out. one thing that we'll need to do, well, let's go ahead and actually try and combine it. So if we scale it down a little bit and then come up to my combine tool and click on that, give it a second to it. And then let me make this not translucent again. We can see that because I scaled it down, the second hollow shape wasn't up to the top of this shape. I scaled down the z-axis as well. We actually need to undo that. And then we need to get a hold of that inside object and make it increase its height while keeping the same like x and y length and width. So right now, it's kind of impossible to select the inside object. Anytime I try and select it, I'm actually selecting the outside object. So one trick that we can do is use like the multi-select click and drag. Then I've actually selected both things. And then if I hold down Shift again, what that's going to let me do is select multiple objects on top of that. So if I hold down Shift and collect this object too, now I have all of them like this. But if I use the same trick and select these two objects and then hold Shift and click on something already in the selection, I'm actually going to deselect the outside object. So Shift is going to add and take away things, that selection tool. Now I just have the inside thing, or I should at least grab it like that, hold down Shift, click that, and now you can see, oops, let me do that one last time, unclick that, and now you can see my handles and all of that is selecting the inside object. So I can grab that even if it's kind of hidden out of the way because it's inside of something. Something that'll definitely be useful to you as you make all kinds of designs, hopefully. So I'll pull that up a little bit so it's tall enough to fit outside the top. And I'll just show again, this handle up at the top is going to be the height handle. That just moves it, increases its height and decreases it. So I can go up and down like this. While these handles, which we already have seen, increase like the width and the length, depending on how we want it. So I can pull that up and down. Since I'm using like the hollow object, I'm increasing the height of something that's hollowing something out. I can kind of make it as tall as I want because it won't affect anything if it's, too tall, because it'll just vanish once I combine these things. I can pull this way out if I want. I can kind of look at it from the top down. It looks pretty good, like how thick it is, but maybe I just want to come back holding down my Shift and Alt key and just pull it out a little bit. It's not quite so thick. I can pull it out like that. If it's not quite fine-tuned enough, we do have a little snap scale all the way down this way. But depending on what that scale is set to, it's going to jump up and down as you try and increase it slowly based on that scale. If that's too high, you can move it way down if you'd like, and then it's going to allow you to kind of fine-tune it slowly. So that looks pretty good. And now we can come in, we can see we have two objects. One is the solid object. You can take that out just so we can see it. And one is the hollow object. And then when we click them both to combine and use the grouping tool, we get a nice hollow can in the end. And now that we've combined these to make a new object, I have all the same tools available through this new grouping of objects. So those two objects became one fused object. Now I can just click on this one and do anything I want to it by itself too. Okay. A lot of steps, a lot of tools just to kind of get going with that basic step. But that actually is most of the tools, at least available in this CAD, and most that you would need just to do, basic designs, the alignment tools, sizing tools, grouping, and stuff like that. So we'll keep going with the project just so we can get that done. Take a look back. We have this outline, and now we just need like a wedge go on top, it'll be the it that holds the book open, like that. So we'll come back in. We'll just come to the gallery on the side. We have a whole bunch of options available to us. This one called roof for the wedge. So I'll grab that, pop it onto my field, and then we'll just need to fit that to the object in the way that we want. Nothing too new with this, some basic practice. I need to, one, flip this on to this face, so it's, standing up. So when we come to the object, we have these rotation handles. I can flip it any way that I want. I can spin it that way. I can spin it this way. And my last one is kind of hidden at the moment, but I can also spin it this way, which is the way that I want. Once I've spun it, you can see that it's kind of sticking out the bottom of the field. So I can grab a hold of it. This little black handle up at the top, that's just going to let me move an object up and down, not scale it up and down, just move it up and down. I can pull it up if I want. I don't need to try and exactly line it up, although you can see it says how high it is off the base. If I don't get it exactly, if it's kind of floating like that, I can just use the D key to drop it down to the base plane. That'll be, it's also available to you if it's sticking out down the bottom. I can just use D to line it up exactly with that plane, which everything is sitting on. Grab it like that. One thing to note quickly about rotation is that when you try and spin something, it does all these nice even angles, but you might not want, an exact clean angle. You might just want to rotate something by a little bit. But when you do rotate things, it depends on the placement of the mouse, how you can do it. But since my mouse is inside this little rotation wheel, it is doing it in these kind of clean, bulky angles. But if I move my mouse outside of the wheel, now I can do it by, degree by degree, like that if you want. So I'll just leave it like that. And then we'll go ahead and align it to this little thumb ring that we have going on. Again, I can just click it and try and, line it up kind of exactly, but it might be slightly off, so I don't want that. I can just go ahead and select both of them. And again, I always have my align tool to align things face to face, edge to edge, and stuff like that. So any of these buttons you click, you can see kind of which face, which edge it's going to line them up on. I'm going to click on this one, line up along this axis, and then I can even move it, down this way if I want. If it goes like this, we would have to, again, kind of move it up manually, and then we'd lose the exact alignment. But if I just click on something and then use the up and down keys on the keypad, that's going to keep it, on the same exact axis and just move it up exactly up and down, so I don't lose anything to the left and right. You can just use the keypad as well. Let's take a look back at the project. We can see we basically have the gist. We might just want to do a couple things. We want to widen this little wedge shape, obviously. I can come in, and again, I'll want to use my Shift and Alt key to kind of keep it in the middle. Maybe I'll want to skew this down a little bit, change this so I can see it. I might want to make this translucent just so I can kind of see my object behind it. We won't spend too much time on this. That looks, pretty good. So we'll come back to this. We can see as we scaled up that wedge a little bit, it also scaled up the height a whole bunch. I want to drop it down so it's even with the hollow can object itself. So with that, I can just come in and I'll select my can. When I click on the height handle, it tells me it's 20 units tall. And then I can just come up to my wedge object, click on its height handle, and I can even come in and just type in 20. And now I have the exact same height, so they line up along the top and the bottom. So we got that. We can try and combine them now, just like we have in the finished edition. But if I try to do that, you'll notice that we get this by accident, not quite what we intended. We don't need to come back and like add a new hollow can in the middle. What we can actually do is we can undo what we just did to begin with. And then what I'm actually going to do is undo the combining of these two objects. I'm going to undo that. Now I'm back to free objects. I have a solid wedge, solid outside can, and then the hollow can, which again is sticking up all the way up in the middle. That's going to hollow out both of these objects now that it's kind of active in the combining stage again. Now when I click them all and click on my combine tool, now I can use that hollow object to remove stuff from both of those objects. Now I'm looking pretty good with the basic shape that I have. I can come back, and since I don't need this, I can just shut it off if I want, like that. And then we'll come and just do a last couple steps to again see the last couple things available to us in this kind of toolkit. But as you can see, we only have a couple basic buttons: combine, uncombine, alignment. We have some, copy paste buttons, some undo buttons. But that's mostly what this CAD program is, just adding stuff and deleting stuff to make, simple objects. You can make complicated things, but it's really going to be like simple geometric things at this stage of, how advanced it is. So let's come in and we'll take a look at some of the ones that we made. Last time we have some with, not to be so silly, we have some with some text on it. We have two with text, so I'll show you how to make some homemade text in this. And then we also have one that not only has like a nice little diamond on top to look like a diamond ring, but this one also has some nice like bends to the thing that's going to hold the page open, since the book isn't exactly like a triangle wedge angle. We'll see if we can do that as well to add in some bends and not just have all these exactly straight lines. I'm going to come in and let me move some of this stuff. And on this side, they finally added in Tinkercad a find option. It used to be that you couldn't type in like text, you couldn't type in box to find stuff. They finally added it in. I'm going to type in text. We see we have a whole bunch of like text pre-made shapes. I'm just going to choose the basic one, pop that down on my field. And then the cool thing about this piece of text, this object, along with quite a couple objects, is that when I click on it, I have additional options in the kind of like object info box. I can obviously change the text itself. If I want that in caps, I can change the text itself. It has a couple options of the font style that it is, so I'll choose that one. Height, that one we can do with the height handle, but that's in as well. We can pull it a little bit if we want. Segment, we have all those as well. So we'll come in now that we have this, and we'll just kind of quickly, you can follow along if you want to kind of practice. I'm going to pull this down a little bit so it's not so thick. We might change that in a little bit. I'm going to select on it, scale it down a little bit so I can see it in my field of view. I want to stick it on like this face, so it's on the top of the little thumb ring, so I see it when I'm holding open the book. Let's spin it 180 that way. Next, we need to come in and find the spin handle this way, so spin it 90 that way. Then we can see it like that. I can use D to pull it up. I can select both of these and use my alignment tool to get it exactly in the middle. Let me do that again. Exactly in the middle. And then we can do, we might need to do something like this. We might need to thicken it a little bit. We want it to be like this one, flush with all the outside of the ring, but we still want it to be, hollow inside, obviously. So if we follow that model that I did last time, I can take this, just using my up key, I can move this all the way up. Again, we can kind of just try and eyeball matching this red text to the flat side of this shape, but we actually have a built-in tool to help us kind of like stick two pieces exactly on top without like going beyond anything that we need. So in my toolkit on this side, we have this tool. This is my plane tool. So I'll click on that. And now you notice when I move it around, my field is kind of like aligning this to any flat side of an object. And when I click on it, it's going to make that the new plane of the field. And now when I click on my text and click the D key, it's going to exactly drop that down the new plane, which is exactly the face of this, this side of the wedge. And make a new plane, help me align it any way that I want. And then when I want to, go back to the typical plane, the blue one, I can just click on the plane tool again, just kind of like click any place that's an empty spot, and then I'm back to my typical studio view like this. So we'll do a couple last things with this. And again, you can just practice as you want. Get the gist of it. We'll come in, I'm just going to, oops. Let me come in and scale it up just a little bit so it's not quite as small. If I want, I can use my, oops. If I just hold down my Alt key, I can kind of stretch it out like this, so I can span, most of the height of this. And I can even come in again and say, this is 20 tall, the green thing, let me make the text exactly 20 tall. And then I'll just need to again click on the text. My D key to drop it down so it's even with the blue plane and sitting on that. And then it's all exactly the same, height on the top and the bottom. Come back in one last time. It's a little bit too thick now. So I'll just pull it down until it's just sticking out the front of the little ring device. And then again, we'll find the same trick we used last time will come in handy this time. If I try to group it now, I'm going to get all this stuff on the inside. So what I can do is I can ungroup this again. And now when I select it all, I have a whole bunch of solid objects, but I still have this hollow cone, hollow can that's going to remove everything that's in its path. I can do that. And then we have a nice little ring that's exactly lined up in the middle, exactly the same height on all sides, like that. And if I want, I can squash it down a little bit. A thumb is not exactly round, so if I want to make it slightly oblong in one direction, I can do that too. So I can skew this a little bit if I want, and then I can even come in, pull it down a little bit again. Now that I have one new final object, I can scale it any way I want as a group. And then that looks, pretty good. We can drop that like that. We'll do one last example with the same thing. So what I'm gonna do is, if I hold down my Alt key, I can just basically copy and paste something. So if I hold down Alt and then just left click and drag on this, I just get an exact copy of that. I can also just Control C, Control V to get a copy, same thing. I have a copy. Let me undo some stuff on this copy so that we can do a new design instead. So let me take away the text, combine all of this again, and then I'm back to like my base shape. I can add something new onto it. I'll come in and let's see if we have, we can put a diamond on it. So I got this nice diamond. And again, we'll just practice with the same tools. We know almost all the tools now. I can just come in and you guys can just practice, flip it the way that we need. come in, select them both, hit the align tool, line them up any way that we want. So I'm going to pull them up this way. Went a little bit too much. I can just come in, click on that. And again, I'll just use my keypad to use the left key to pull it out. So I still stay on the same exact axis and not move it around. Switch to the front. I'll pull this down. Let's see, this is 13.5. So I'll make that same height, except that actually on a skewed it a little bit. I'll just do that a little bit manually. I'm gonna pull it down like this. I don't want us to take up the whole height actually. So let me click on this, pull it up just a little bit. And then, oops. What I can actually do with this back object, I can move it out of the way. Or I can actually, one of the tools we have is the hide selected. I can just kind of, it should be hiding. Okay, yep, we can just hide it like that. But it's not deleted, it's just hiding. So I can select that, hide it. All these things I have hanging about, I can just hide those as well. That way, when I'm clicking and selecting on things, I don't click on stuff by accident. And then I'm just going to come in. We just want to move this up a little bit like that. That looks like it sticks inside the boundaries. It's just sticking out the inside a little bit. So we'll just do the same thing. Oops, let's do those back. We'll do the same thing one last time. Ungroup them and then fuse them all one last time like that. And then we have a nice like diamond ring edition of that. Next to that one. And then we just have one last kind of new project, or not a project, but just moving away from this ring to show one last tool in this CAD website, which is kind of like the coolest thing, the coolest tool that's in it. I'm going to go back this way. So one of the things that I put on the little gallery of sample objects is one of these plant pots. And as you can see, they have like a whole bunch of like, this one has like a whole bunch of diamonds cut out of it. This one has diamonds like embossed into it. This has a whole bunch of lines in it. When it comes to something like that, when we have to do like a whole bunch of stuff exactly lined up, looking the exact same way, this has, you know, like 50 diamonds in it at least. That's going to be quite difficult to do by hand, even if we use the align tool one by one to make it exact. But Tinkercad has a tool built in to be able to do that basically automatically. So I just want to show you that as like the last cool tool in this CAD program. So I'm going to actually make this exact pop, hopefully, and I won't finish it, but hopefully you'll see that you can make it actually in just a couple minutes, even though it looks quite complicated. I'm going to make it from scratch, even though I have half of it made up. That way, I'm going to add a new thing on my tool, on my plane. We'll go ahead and we can use the bevel tool to kind of soften the edges a little bit. I'll increase the sides so it's as round as possible. So we can see we got that going on now. We'll kind of do this a little bit quickly. I'm going to align these. I just want to hollow out the pot to begin with. So I have my hollow object inside. I'll move my hollow object up a little bit. And then I'm just going to scale it a little bit down like that. We have it like that. I also need to move it up off of the plane a little bit because I want the plant pot to have a bottom, obviously. If I combine them now, it's going to make completely a can with two open ends again, obviously. So let's grab on this, use the up and down handle, pull it up just a little bit, I guess. And then I will combine those. And then I have the basic plant pot shape with the nice beveled edges and stuff that we have on this one. But now we have like 100 diamonds to cut out of it. And we want them to all be exact and stuff like that. what I can do is, let me just make one diamond and kind of see how I would do just one of them. And then we'll see, once we do one of them, how can we kind of automate doing as many as we want, just as the last kind of 2 minutes. So I have my hollow shape. I'm gonna pull this down a whole bunch, make it quite small, like that. I will come in and increase the height a whole bunch. So I'm gonna make that quite tall. What I'll do next is click on that hollow shape, and let's see, we want to spin it. If I can grab a hold of the spin, yep, I want to spin it 90 that way. I can cut it down that line. I'll move this down a whole bunch. Let me move this way, so it's sticking in and out of both sides. I can actually just use the align tool at this point, so I'm just going to put them exactly in the middle. You can see I can move it down. I can move down a little bit still. We can see the shadow of what's going to be cut out on that side. Next, we just want to make it a diamond. So we'll just come in and spin it 45 degrees that way. Now we have one set up. So if I combine that, we can see, yeah, we've done one of them, but we still have 100 to go. So what we'll do, instead of doing that exact step again and again and hoping they all look lined up, is we can set that up like that. And then we have this nifty tool up this way called the duplicate and repeat tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that. What it's done is it's duplicated the object that I had selected in the same exact place. Now we can see when I rotate it, I actually have two of them now. I'm holding a new one, an exact copy of it. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit. I'm going to move it. Oops, I grabbed the wrong object. Let me try that again. So I'm going to do this, duplicate, spin it just a little bit so it's not lined up with the second one, like that. And then what I want to do is move it up just a little bit like that, maybe. And now that I've duplicated and done some stuff to it, when I click my repeat button, it's going to apply those same exact steps to the last one that I had just used. So I have, this one selected right now. So when I click the duplicate button, since I kind of saved those steps, it's going to do the same thing. Duplicate it, spin it a little bit, move it up a little bit, and now I can just keep going like that all the way up to the top. We could have even done that with like multiple diamonds side by side, so we can get all of this filled in at the same time. But just because we have like 2 minutes left, that's pretty good just to begin. And now we can see how quickly we did that. We'll select all of it. We'll go ahead and combine those. And we can see we have a nice little design. We just have to go back and adjust it a little bit to get the whole plant pot filled in. That's one of the coolest tools in this. Kind of do these fancy designs with patterns on it and stuff like that. Couple last things just to wrap up, and then we'll take like any questions and stuff like that. Let me see what else I want to talk about. Oh, yeah, so one thing that we can do besides just making stuff completely from scratch by pulling these basic shapes and making something wholly new is we can come into any site that you can find that has 3D objects, and you can download them, and you can just send those to us to print it, but you can also download them to edit them, combine them, change them in any way that you want. I found this cat 3D object. I also found this mouse object, which has a tail which will actually move once it's printed. So you can see it's a little like chain link mouse tail. What I did is I just have all the steps lined out on this new project. I have the mouse. What I've done is cut out the mouse by just chopping him off so that I just have the tail itself. I don't have to design that homemade. That was step one. Step two was taking the cat, chopping off its tail. So we just have a tailless cat. And then the last thing I did I can tweak it a little bit so it looks nice, but now I have fused into one object is a cat with a moving tail if I want. Just an example, but anything that you find on this website, hinges and any stuff like that, especially with complicated stuff like this tail, you can just grab that, use it, and combine it into a new project if you want. That's available to you. This is the button that you'll use to drop an STL 3D file into the project and have it pop up on the field. You can also, you'll notice, drop a 2D object or 2D file onto this. That's going to be something like this. We at the library have a logo, obviously. We just have a 2D like image PNG. But since you can upload a 2D file, specifically a .svg file you need. But if you have that, you can upload that, and then you can basically 3Dify any 2D image file that you have, like especially like this. And this logo, that's a pretty good example. And it basically just makes like a flat object, but just adds some depth to it. That's how I was able to do that. And then you can do anything you want with those to put them into things, use it to emboss objects, things like that. That's also possible with the 2D file. Once you've made anything, the way to get it is to use this button up this way. You'll want to download it, choose which shape or everything in the design. All of this stuff is a 3D type file, but if you want to send it to us, we specifically want a .stl file, just one type of 3D file that we will stick into the print machine that we have, and it can use that to print it out in real life. That's how you'll get it and send it to us once you have it. And again, this is the thing you'll send to us. Now that we've made a whole thing and see how to download it, you'll just upload that STL this way once you've made something homemade. Okay, that is my quick little lesson on 3D objects. I'll send out this handout with all the steps and a couple things, that we didn't quite get to, but just if you need it to do review and need it to get the buttons this one at the beginning if you want that. I'll send that out in a couple minutes once we so if anyone has any questions, people on Zoom, if you have any questions, we can do those.
I have a question.
Yeah.
All right, I have two actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
The planter with the holes in it.
Yeah.
The holes are sticking out. Is there any way? So how would you fill? Because let's say you put water in that. So I like the pattern, but I want it solid so that the inside is, solid. But the
so just like slightly cut out of the outside. Yeah, so this one actually might be that. It might just be slightly cut out. But what you can do is basically the same thing. So we'll come back to it. I'll just make a quick copy of it. Let me undo some stuff. Let me delete.
Oh, you'd put another cylinder back inside, right?
Yeah, that would be the easiest way. I didn't even think about it. I was thinking maybe you could just come in and just stick this in a little bit, then duplicate and repeat. But yeah, we could actually just take this object, the new, component inside
the cylinder, just stick it back in again, right?
That's actually the quickest way. Yeah, good job. I didn't even think about that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Second question I have is, it says that it has to be under 3 hours to print something. How do you know how long things take to print?
Yeah, so good question. So if I come to my slideshow, so you can't really tell from like designing it, because it doesn't depend. But like when you design something, as we just did, this is just like an abstract object. Once you put it into a print machine, you can scale it up to be the size, big enough to fit a ficus tree. You can scale it down to 1 inch. So it's really kind of like sizeless at the moment. It's kind of abstracted. So it depends on how big we actually make it. depends on the speed of the machine. The machine, sometimes you can set it to like low quality, high speed just to get something done. But if it's something like with a lot of detail, you'll need low speed, high quality. Really, you need some experience with the machine itself, not like this CAD stuff. But like as an example, like Pikachu, which is, maybe like 2 inches tall. The machine that we have can probably do that in like maybe 90 minutes. This chip clip might take like maybe 50 minutes, depending on the speed. So they do take a while. With the time limit that we have, it's going to be something the size of like an apple, something that kind of small, medium, big. But yeah, it depends on like how hollow it is, how much detail, if it needs like scaffolding to hold it up, that's going to add on time as well.
So like the planter that you just designed,
Yeah.
how long would that take? That was about 2 inches high.
So that was about 2 inches high. It might take, since it's mostly hollow, the cutouts would need like scaffolding inside to hold up the stuff above it. That might take like just about the 3-hour time limit. We might have to scale it up and down a little bit, change the speed settings. But yeah, it's kind of that big, still takes that much time. Just a couple of inches might fill that time limit that we have.
Okay. All right. So if you had something too big, it would just stop after the 3 hours, or you guys would stop it after the 3 hours, basically.
So the machine can handle it. We on the staff have that limit just so we can actually be washing the machine, and it's not running when nobody's in the building at night and it could explode or something.
Right.
So that's why we have the limit, just a staff limitation, really.
Okay.
Yeah, but when people make like huge like Boba Fett helmets, which you see online, like life-size Boba Fett helmets, they just leave it running, in the bedroom printing machine they have, like Tuesday to Friday, that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.